Hi, this is me, Aaryaman, and you're watching the Aaryaman show. We're doing this after quite some time, so sorry for ghosting you. I'm pretty sure the YouTube algorithm has forgotten about me, so making a comeback right there. And today we have quite a few things to discuss. It's the fifth test, it's upon us, and after the spectacular show from Ravindra Jadeja and Washington Sundar in the fourth test to draw the game for India, pressure will be on the English this time, but also on the Indians, because then they have to win this game anyhow if they want to draw this series. And I don't think this has happened many times, but this is probably the second time in a row that India has gone to England and has drawn the series. Because back in 2021, we were leading the series 2-1, and then we had to stop the series because of a COVID break. And then when we finally had the fifth test match in June or July, something, we again saw India, give up their lead to England, and essentially, we drew the series 2-2. I mean, we did retain the trophy, but we drew the series 2-2, and this time, yet again, we are at the verge of drawing the series, but this time we're the ones trailing. So if India do go ahead to draw the series, it will be a huge achievement for us, especially after what happened in Australia just a few months ago. So let's start with everything that's been happening around this game and both the teams. Starting off is the news that's probably trending everywhere. It's the fight, the verbal fight between Gautam Gambhir and the curator of the Oval. So apparently the curator had yelled at some of the support staff of India, and Gautam Gambhir was not pleased by the way he was talking and he was acting. And it's also being reported that he asked the Indian coach to stay about 2.5 meters away from the pitch and to look at the pitch from 2.5 meters away, which is absurd, considering the hypocrisy that there's a picture of him and Brendan McCallum standing on the pitch from 2023 during the Ashes. So yeah, that's subtle racism for you, and you can call it the colonial mindset, but I don't want to go too much into that. This is a sports podcast at the end of the day. So yep, there was a fight. Officially, there are no complaints being filed by either of the parties, but yeah, it shows how roaring the Indians are, and I think it's almost also given the Indian team some more purpose. You do not mess with the Indian team. If you just rile them up with something just before the game, and they're just going to be that tad bit more aggressive, hopefully so, and maybe as a result of that, we're going to see the Indian team go all out on England and win this match with a good margin or not. At the end of the day, we just want to win, especially after the disappointment at Lords. Again, don't want to get into that would be a bit too sad or depressing to talk. But another news that's just come up is that the hero of the fourth test, Ben Stokes, he is missing out on the fifth test. And to be honest, again, he had a very good test match, 130 and a fifer, all of that to just be submerged under the load of memes and load of criticism that he received for trying to draw at a point where both the batsmen were nearing their centuries and then creating a whole scene out of it. So again, like the Australian newspaper said, crybabies. All right, moving on. Bumrah is also set to miss the fifth test. Well, not a surprise because, workload management. I mean, I get that he was injured due to being used excessively in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, but there was some good enough time to relax, during this series for Bumrah. But otherwise, if it's possible, I don't think they should be resting him at least for this crucial match. But then again, there is this ironical stat that I read somewhere. I'll be attaching the picture of it, that India have won more games without Bumrah than with Bumrah. Obviously, it is a sort of a flawed interpretation if you think that India can win without Bumrah. But yeah, that's just a stat that I read somewhere that is very fascinating to me. Of course, you can discuss all you want about that, because at the end of the day, Bumrah is not the only factor for India's losses, right? It's India's batting, which was poor until this English series. But again, Bumrah's absence now means that the doors for Arshdeep Singh might just have opened, because let's be honest, we've tried a lot of things. Akashdeep and Siraj obviously are the two confirmed fast bowlers. They are the pillars of this Indian bowling lineup. And we've seen how Prasidh Krishna was. He was not impressive at all. His line and lengths were in shambles. Anshul Kamboj, he just bowled one innings. Unfortunately, that wasn't very great. And well, I don't think he will be coming back for the fifth test. So that just leaves us with Arshdeep Singh. He has shown a lot of promise in his domestic season and with first class cricket. He's obviously not played any international tests, so we'll have to see how he does. But if he does, make his debut tomorrow, it will be very, very interesting to watch, and it will be very fun to watch that he finally makes his debut into international test cricket. On the other hand, Rishabh Pant is out for the game because of a fractured toe that he suffered in the fourth test. So N. Jagdishan is supposed to replace him in the squad, but I really don't get the feeling that he will be in the 11. Dhruv Jurel, I feel, is the what can you say, the no-brainer. After all, he's been keeping the wickets throughout this series whenever Rishabh Pant was not available. So it only makes sense that the Indian coach, Gautam Gambhir, and the Indian captain choose him over N. Jagdishan, and finally, also give him an opportunity to bat in this series. How does he bat? We don't know. But yeah, he's finally going to bat in this season. But there's also another possible change, with the oval being a very flat sort of pitch on the first day and then getting a bit hard, favoring fast bowlers on the second and third day, and then progressing to favor the spinners a bit on the last couple of days. There are talks that Kuldeep Yadav might just make his way into the playing 11, and honestly, I could not agree more. I think he deserves a place in this 11, but the absence of Rishabh Pant is now causing some complexity in it. If there was Rishabh Pant, ideally I would have said, okay, just leave out Shardul Thakur and get Rishabh Pant, because Shardul Thakur hasn't, exactly been an asset to the team throughout this series. So, keeping him just for the sake of some more batting depth would not make sense. After all, India's top 5 is pretty strong. India also has two great batting all-rounders in Ravindra Jadeja and Washington Sundar. I know they are bowling all-rounders by the way they bat. They can be batting all-rounders, and especially after the centuries in the last game, you can call them batting all-rounders. But yeah, with the batting lineup that India currently has, I really don't feel the need for any more batting depth. I understand where the thinking is coming from. In the BGT, your opening was not performing at all. Your number 4 was just nicking away balls outside off, and you really had to bank on your number 5 and your number 6, number 7, number 8 to get you the runs. So I get where the thinking of having more additional batting depth comes from. But in this series, fortunately, the Indian batting lineup has been performing supremely well. Yes, there is a problem at number 3. Whether you get Sai Sudarshan or Karunaya, both of them have their pros and cons. Sai Sudarshan is young, he needs to be developed, whereas Karunaya, he's almost 33, he's almost 34 now, right? And he's made his comeback. And again, I feel that let's give him a chance in the fifth test match. You know, if you are dropping him forever after this, at least give him one more chance, let him play the fifth test, and then if the coach and the captain feels that they should drop him and make Sai Sudarshan their permanent number 3, fair enough. But I think one more chance to Karunai. But right, let's not deviate. Kuldeep Yadav, like I said, the current situation makes it a bit complex because we really don't know how Dhruv Jurel might perform. But again, I would look at the positive side, and I like to think that India's batting order is good, even if, let's assume for a minute, Dhruv Jurel does not perform very well in this test match. You still have Jaddu, and you still have Washington Sundar, after him to sort of help out. And then you can expect Bumrah or Siraj to bat for some time, if not score runs like they did at the Lords. But yeah, I think in that case, getting an extra bowler, especially spinner bowler, would be much more advantageous than having another all-rounder. Because let's be very honest, bowling in this series hasn't been at par. Now, I get it, England's pitches aren't what they usually are. When you think of England and its pitches, you usually think of a green cover and balls swinging left and right for majority of the days. But that's not the case this time around. It's mostly flat pitches which are great to bat. Of course, the ball is swinging, but again, look, bowling hasn't been. But again, look, the bowling hasn't been great. Yes, Bumrah and Siraj have 14 wickets each, but it just hasn't been satisfying. It feels like there's something missing, and when there's sort of this feeling that okay, there might just be something missing, or you just don't have the X factor. In this case, Kuldeep Yadav could be the one. And like I said, with the oval tending to spin towards the end of the game, the last couple of days especially, Kuldeep Yadav would be a better player. Selecting Kuldeep Yadav would be a much better choice than going in for Shardul Thakur. And so if you honestly ask me what my 11 could be, it will pretty much be the same. Jaiswal and KL Rahul opening up, KL Rahul being the rock solid opener that he is. Number 3, I will pick Karunaya. One last chance. If it has to be his last chance, let it be his one last chance. Number 4 is obviously Shubman Gill. Number 5 will be Dhruv Jurel. Number 6, number 7 will be Washington Sundar and Ravindra Jadeja respectively, or vice versa. And then it will be Kuldeep, Akashdeep, Siraj and Arshdeep, hopefully. So yeah, this is what I predict India's 11 would look like. But given the track record of how India's selection goes and what calls Indian coach Gautam Gambhir and, well, recent captain Shubman Gill are taking, I will not be surprised if, Sai Sudarshan and Shardul Thakur do show up and it's just Arshdeep Singh making his debut. But hopefully, 3 changes are what I predict, and, well, I think they would work out pretty well in this situation. And nevertheless, no matter what team the management does finally choose, it is going to be a do or die game, and it is going to be a very fun game to watch. And hopefully I won't be listening to Chulo at the end of it. Hopefully I will be happy that we would have drawn the series and retained the trophy. So yep, fingers crossed. And I'll see you after day 1. Bye bye.